Hi, here we are again at John D. Atchison's Great West Life building. We're going to look today at 7 more Atchison buildings. Several of them just a few blocks away here in downtown Winnipeg, and others a little bit further afield, but still in the city. So let's waste no time, let's get going. Well, what we have here is the red-brown building behind me. This is a John Atchison warehouse. 7 stories of verticality, known as the Maltese Cross building, built in 1909. This was built for the Winnipeg Rubber Company, a division of the Gutta Percha Company of Toronto, and it brands their footwear line known as the Maltese Cross footwear. And that's what gives the building its name. And the building brands the Maltese Cross. It's not really the conventional Maltese cross that people might know. It looks more like a German iron cross with 4 intersecting triangles. And you see this in ironwork and stonework, and once in paint on this building. But by World War II, this was a very unpopular kind of look because it looked so Germanic, and wherever it was painted out. But still, the ironwork and the stonework remains. This building is interesting as an early reinforced concrete building in Western Canada. And building with concrete proved to be cheaper and faster than with steel framing. Also, it didn't require the additional work to fireproof the building. And so here we have this building that is just a curiosity today. In Winnipeg's warehouse or exchange district, we have another building by Atchison, the Fairchild building, something more than a warehouse. This is really a retail space and also an assembly plant, and it is reflected on 2 sides of the building, a distinctly different front and back. Now, this building has an interesting authorship. Yes, Atchison was the architect ultimately of this building, but early on, somebody who was involved in this building was a guy named Herbert Bell Rue, another Midwesterner from the United States, from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and he filed the building plans. He ordered terracotta panels for the building, and he designed a different kind of front to the building, something a little less refined, more rusticated. But we have to acknowledge that Atchison was the ultimate designer of this building, fine as it was. The telltale sign that it was a retail building are the large glass windows at the front. This was so that people who were passing by could look at the wares being sold, which was farm implements. Fairchild building was a building for the Fairchild Farm Implement Company, but just before the building was finished, it was acquired by John Deere Plow and became the John Deere building. So strangely enough, the terracotta panels have an F company inscribed in them, but that branding was woefully out of date by the time the building opened. The back of the Fairchild building is totally different from the front. It looks like a different structure altogether. It is a glass wall. The reason was to admit light for those persons who were assembling the farm machinery inside. And today, it is a beautiful feature because, wouldn't you know it, this building has been converted into condos, and the people on that side of the building have the most gorgeous windows in Winnipeg. We are in downtown Winnipeg, just off of Portage Avenue, on a cross street called Carleton. I am standing outside of the Carleton building, designed by John D. Atchison. It has 2 facades, one that faces Portage Avenue and one on Carleton, but I prefer this facade because you see the original storefront. The original storefront made of cast iron. The 2 stories above it are are rendered in white porcelain-like terracotta that was manufactured for this building in Chicago. This is a steel frame structure, and it is a building that was produced by Atchison for Oldfield Kirby Gardner. That is the firm that had its headquarters in the temple-like building that we featured in the last video. So you see the continuity of his relationship with that firm and with his suppliers from Chicago. I'm in downtown Winnipeg in front of the Boyd Building on Portage Avenue. Oh, what a lovely building this is. A quintessential Chicago-style skyscraper. So when we talk about that, we're talking about the design of the building. It was solved in Chicago that a way for a newfangled skyscraper to sort of hang together in terms of composition was for it to emulate a column with a base that was quite distinctive on the first and second floors, followed by any number of stories that are identical above, which would be the shaft of the column. And then at the very top, the fancy capital would be the cornice and maybe a very unusual top attic floor. And that's what you have here. And it's abundantly clear because Atchison used two different colors of terracotta. The base is a bronzy color. Unfortunately, it's been kind of painted over in the years, so it looks a bit more olive. But quite true are the middle floors, which are both white terracotta and this lovely olivey, coppery terracotta. And then above that, in cream, the top of the column, the crown, if you will. The other thing that's neat about this building is that its vertical members and its horizontal members are in different colors, and that also tells you about the structure of the building. Now, this building is neat because its skeleton is not of steel frame construction, even though it was built in 1911-12 at the same time as, for example, Atchison's very tall Union Tower building. No, it is reinforced concrete, a system that was developed by a Minnesotan by the name of C.A.P. Turner. He was an engineer from Duluth, Minnesota. Well, what it meant was this system, by having reinforced concrete in the floors running diagonally or perpendicularly from columns that had column heads with hooks that also cantilevered the weight. This allowed for thinner floors, that allowed for taller ceilings and the admittance of more light. It was very fast to construct, and it was cheaper to construct. And so this building benefits from that. Right now, the building's windows might look a little bit strange. That's just because a renovation is taking place here. It's a very good story for the beautiful Boyd Building because 2 years ago, it was on Manitoba Historical Society's most endangered list, and it was even adopted in Canada by the National Trust as one of the most endangered buildings in Canada. Today, it's looking forward to a new life that will likely be mixed use, a little bit of commercial, a little bit of residential, and we're very excited to see what's going to happen. We are now outside of downtown Winnipeg. We are in an area called Osborne Village, near downtown, by the way. And I am outside one of Atchison's first buildings here in Winnipeg, built his first summer here in 1905. This is the Wardlow or Wardlaw Apartments. I'm standing on what is today called Wardlaw Avenue, but in 1905 it was called Wardlow, and therefore the carving on the building, Wardlow, is really not quite accurate today. This is a rare example of the prairie style here in Winnipeg. So those of you who are familiar with the early works of Frank Lloyd Wright and some of the works of Louis Sullivan, both from Chicago, will be familiar with this style that emphasizes or mirrors the horizontal nature of the prairies, the Midwest in the US and the Canadian prairies here in our area. So what we have here is a shallow hip roof that parallels the land. We have different features like the banding that stress the horizontal nature of the building and of the landscape. This building was built as an apartment with 6 units, and today it still has just 6 units, but it is a condo. There are 2 suites on each one of the 3 stories. It is a lovely example of a American and Canadian vernacular, and it really is a joy. Well, this is such a lovely spot. It might be an appropriate time to remind you or let you know that I have written a book on the architect John D. Atchison. This is a book that largely talks about his Winnipeg period, which started in 1905, around the time that he was designing this lovely structure. Well, also his time up until 1923 here, as well his period in Chicago before that, and later on in the Los Angeles area. If you're interested in this book, please look at the information below. There is a link to the Winnipeg Architecture Foundation, which published this book, 296 pages, replete with hundreds of photographs. And it's available for delivery anywhere in the world. I'm standing on Balmoral Avenue, a grand residential street in downtown Winnipeg, and we have 2 Atchison residences here. He did build single-family homes as well as apartments and commercial structures. The building right here is a simple 4-square structure. The interior is very much intact today, so it has the Atchison fabric. Next door, we have one of those unusual examples of prairie style here in Winnipeg. This, also designed by Atchison, has the signature look of the horizontal thrust of prairie style, the deep long eaves, and all the banding that suggests the horizontal mirroring the land. Both these buildings were designed for the Chevrier family. The fancier building was for the father Noah and his wife Agnes, and for their son Udor, the house next door. Both were built at the same time in 1910. We finish our tour in the neighborhood of Tuxedo in Winnipeg, what used to be the town of Tuxedo, when this gorgeous building was designed and built by John Atchison between 1920 and 1922. This was built as the Manitoba School for the Deaf. Today it is still a school, but this lovely building here is the flagship building of a larger campus of the Canadian Mennonite University. Atchison had foreseen this as being a larger campus, and there's even a drawing of what he envisioned with his own buildings on the site. But this building has done very well over the years. It was the school for the deaf for many years, then became a wireless school during the war, World War II. Then it became the Manitoba Teachers College, and then ultimately the Canadian Mennonite University. In planning this building, Atchison traveled to the United States to see other schools for the deaf. He visited a school in Indianapolis, Indiana, and also Columbus, Ohio. He designed it in the collegiate Gothic. So this is a kind of school structure that has different elements from Gothic architecture. So here we have steeped pitched gable roofs, we have bay windows, multi-pane glass, we have the tower, we have spires. It's very church-like, or you might even think of it as like a castle from Harry Potter. Walking along the side facade of this building, you can really experience the craft that is involved. This is essentially an H-shaped building, and the different angles create little enclaves, almost like quadrangles, that are green spaces to enjoy the building and to enjoy other people. As well, you can look at the stonework. This is a building that is clad in a chunky Tyndall stone from Manitoba, a type of limestone that lends itself to carving. And this allows the building to have beautiful gargoyles and different faces and all sorts of expressions of the Gothic. This craft continues inside the building, where there are again limestone faces lining the walls. There is so much of the original fabric of the building still inside. So for example, the original chapel is now an auditorium, and it is well used by the public, a beautiful space. The halls are lined with casement windows, which are operational. So today on a sunny summer day, the windows are open, allowing a breeze to come in. There are beautiful barreled ceilings, and there's a great hall that has beamed ceilings and wainscoting going up the walls. This is a lovely crafted structure that is today expressing its full function and potential. And here at one of Atchison's finest structures, it seems appropriate to conclude our tour and to say goodbye. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If so, please give it a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing if you haven't already. We always enjoy your comments, so don't hold back. And if you are interested at all in acquiring my book on John D. Atchison, please refer to the description below, which has a link to the publisher, that is, to the bookstore of the Winnipeg Architecture Foundation.